out of turn number 7. The crowd roars. They're going to see for the first time Chase Elliott win in the Monster Energy Cup Series. No, I won't give in till I'm victorious.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to 3Y. This week the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series was at Watkins Glen for the Go Bowling at the Glen. Overall, I think this was a really good race. I think it was better than Sonoma, especially the beginning of this race here at Watkins Glen was a crazy beginning, probably the craziest beginning to any race this season. And we had the race-long storyline of our Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. going to win this race, as one of the big three have been dominating the whole season, or will Chase Elliott finally break through, getting his first career win in the Cup Series. And now with all that being said, we'll get into my 3 takeaways from the Go Bowling at the Glen, including what happened at the end. Number 1, Dinger doesn't do it. Going into this weekend's race at Watkins Glen, many people believed that this weekend was the last shot for AJ Allmendinger to get a win and make his way into the playoffs. But it seemed as soon as they unloaded that car off the truck on Saturday for first practice and into qualifying that something was off with the number 47 car. Usually when AJ Allmendinger gets to a road course, in one of the practices he shoots up the board and puts the field on notice, but this didn't happen all weekend in both sessions. Then when you go into qualifying, you're thinking if Dinger gets into that second round, he might be saving something and could put up a great lap. He got into the second round and he qualified 8th and didn't really put the field on notice. Then that brings us to Sunday, where you think maybe Dinger can pull off some moves and make his way up to the front of the pack. But that all came to an abrupt halt in the beginning of this race when Denny Hamlin checked up a part of the field, which caused Joey Logano to puncture, he said, his radiator. Other people were saying it was his oil cooler, which ended Joey Logano's day. But AJ Allmendinger also got some damage from the front of this car, and then when Eric Almirola spun, he came down to pit road to get it fixed, and we really never heard from AJ Allmendinger all day. He ended up finishing in 15th place. So now with no more road courses on this schedule until we get into the playoffs, I think AJ Allmendinger is pretty much out of the playoffs and won't be punching his ticket in. The only possible ways I can potentially see AJ Allmendinger getting into the playoffs is if Michigan becomes a fuel mileage race, or if Indianapolis becomes a fuel mileage race or a wreck fest, just like it was last year when Casey Kane got the win. But other than that, the only time I see AJ Allmendinger competing for another win this season is either at the Roval, Talladega, or at Martinsville. Now on to number 2, pit stop. Yes, going into Watkins Glen, everyone knew that there would be 2, maybe even 3 pit stops at the most at Watkins Glen, and for the pit crews not to screw anything up for their driver. But on what would turn out to be the final pit stops of the race, 3 of the front runners had problems on their pit stops. It started with Chase Elliott, who when the jack was dropped, his front tire changer was still in front of the car and he hit him on his way out. And this had many people wondering if this would be a penalty and cost Chase the race. There would turn out to be no penalty, as the NASCAR rule states that a piece of equipment can't come flying out from the pit box. And I believe since the pit gun was attached to the crew member, it counts as just the crew member getting knocked out of the pit box, which is not a penalty. Now if the gun broke off and slid down the pit road, I think that would have been a penalty and cost Chase the race. Now to the front of pit road in pit box number 1, where Denny Hamlin had many problems with his pit stop, where it looks like his rear tire changer runs forward for some reason as they drop the jack and it rips the air hose out, hits one of his crewmen, tires go flying out, the crewman goes down, he gets put in an ambulance, and this cost Denny Hamlin his race and he'll go to the back of the field. Now on to Kyle Busch. When the pit stops were done, Kyle Busch was in the lead and no one knew anything was wrong, and then as we came back from commercial, we found out what really happened to the 18 team during the pit stop. It would turn out that the fuel can wouldn't seal properly and they didn't get much fuel into the car, and Kyle Busch would come back down pit road to refuel the car and fill it up so he can make it to the end. He would start in the back of the field. He would rally and finish all the way in the 3rd position, passing many cars in that last part of the race. But after this race, Kyle Busch must be thinking to himself, what could have been if that fuel problem didn't happen? Would he be the one in victory lane today? Now on to number 3, Chase beats 2nd place. Going into this weekend at Watkins Glen, some people believe that this would be the week that Chase Elliott finally breaks through and puts the car in victory lane for the first time in his career. The reason that some people believe this, me included, was if we just look back at the recent runs that 9 team has had, where at Pocono they won a stage and were one of the better cars at the track. New Hampshire he won a stage and was one of the better cars, and if we look back to the Sonoma race towards the halfway point of the season, he scored the most points out of anyone in the field and he finished in the 4th position. Then in the final practice, in his last qualifying run of the day, Chase Elliott put it at the top of the board to get people thinking that this week could be the week. And then qualifying came for Chase Elliott. In the first round, he put the car at the top of the board, beating Kyle Busch. And then in round 2, Chase Elliott, trying to give it all he had, came inches away from hitting the wall and put the car at second at the time. He would end up being third on the grid for Sunday's race. Now on to Sunday, where Chase Elliott would look to seize the opportunity in front of him and get his first career win. In stage 1, Chase was making many moves and looked to be one of the top 3 cars with the 18 of Kyle Busch and the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. But then towards the end of the stage, many people were wondering, since Chase was close to that playoff bubble of being knocked out, will he go for the stage points or will he be going for the win? Then with 3 laps to go, he pulled down pit road, saying he didn't need stage points, that he's going for a win today. Truex ended up winning stage 1, and Chase and Denny Hamlin be battling for 17th, which had Rick Allen on the edge of his seat even though the caution came out, ending the stage and the field was frozen. Then after staying out for the beginning of stage 2, Chase Elliott came around Kyle Busch and got the lead and would win the second stage. But for the beginning of stage 3, staying out on old tires as they were trying to hit their fuel number and make this race a 2-stopper, Chase screwed up turn 1, which would give the lead to Kyle Busch, and you were wondering if Chase blew his chance to win this race. Then Chase Elliott reeled Kyle Busch back in, but he couldn't pass him, which led to Chase coming over the radio telling his crew chief Alan Gustafson that he couldn't get past Kyle Busch and he's going to sit here and ride and save his stuff for the end of the race. Then the caution came out when Matt DiBenedetto blew up, which set up that last pit stop, which Kyle Busch had his fueling problems and led Chase to get the lead, and this looked like this could be the chance where Chase Elliott finally parks that 9 car in victory lane, getting the 9 car back in victory lane for the first time since Marcus Ambrose did it in 2012 at the same track, Watkins Glen. But then as soon as one of the members of the Big 3 goes to the back, another one appears, and Martin Truex Jr. was there to duel with Chase Elliott. Truex Jr. would reel in Chase Elliott throughout the run as they were trying to hit their fuel numbers and not run out, and this would lead to the white flag, where Chase Elliott was a couple of corners away from finally putting the 9 car back in victory lane and having an Elliott number 9 car back in victory lane since his father Bill did it in November of 2003 at Rockingham. And as we go into turn 1, Chase Elliott looks like he just threw the race away where he goes wide, which actually turned out he was wheel hopping, and he put the car out of gear to stop it from spinning out. He regrouped, kept the lead, and went up the S's. Now you're wondering if Truex is going to push his car too hard into the bus stop or the last 2 turns, moving Elliott out of the way. Then we go through the bus stop, no problems, and Chase Elliott pulls away. Then we get into our final 2 corners, and it looks like Truex runs out of gas, and as Chase Elliott comes around the last corner, he finally gets the win in the Hendrick number 9 car, which is still to me the 24th car, which puts that car back in victory lane for the first time since November of 2015, which was Jeff Gordon's last win, as he wins at Watkins Glen. And as Chase coasts around Watkins Glen, where you hear the fans roaring, and I think people think like, oh, he's just Dale Jr., but if you made him to some random guy named like Jim Smith, and you look at what's happened to him when he's come in with all this fanfare and pressure that, hey, he's the next guy, he's gonna win, and it's taken 99 starts for him to finally get his first career win with 9 second places. I feel like everyone was kind of rooting for this to finally happen. And now just a cherry on top of the sundae for Chase Elliott getting his first career win. This is win number 250 for Hendrick Motorsports. And now this will have people wondering as the season goes on, is Chase gonna step up or step back for the rest of the season as we go into this run to the playoffs? So now after that long-winded ramble about his favorite driver finally winning, sorry, it's been 3 years since my guy's finally been in victory lane, we'll look ahead to next weekend at Michigan for the Consumer Energy 400. Number 1, will Kyle Larson score W? When we went to Michigan earlier this season, everyone thought this would be where Kyle Larson finally breaks through, but he did not, where he spun through the grass and didn't have a good finish. So now as we've seen Chevy taking steps forward at Pocono, where a lot of them were running pretty well, not just Hendrick cars, but all of them overall. We'll see if Larson can punch his way through and get his first win of the season, getting him locked into the playoffs by getting his 4th win at the Michigan International Speedway. Number 2, will the Big 3 rise back to the top? After this weekend's race at Watkins Glen, where we really never saw Kevin Harvick in the front of the field, where he was running from about 5th to about 10th the entire race, and Kyle Busch having his problems where he didn't get the car full of fuel and had to start in the back, and he finished 3rd, which is a good finish, but for the Big 3 to be built up as much as they had, where they've won almost all the races this season, you expect them to be running 1, 2, 3 in any order of the 3 drivers. And this leads to Martin Truex Jr., where he finished second, and he won earlier in the Euro Auto Club. And maybe this will be where he takes the step up to reel in the other 2 of the big 3 at Michigan. And number 3, will Chase go back to back? When you look at Chase Elliott's stats at Michigan International Speedway, he has finished second, 8th, and 9th. And before Watkins Glen, if someone came up to you and said, hey, where would Chase Elliott get his first career win, you would probably say one of the plate tracks, Martinsville or Michigan. And now with the wave of momentum and the way that the number 9 Chevy has been running, where they've won stages in the past 3 races and they got their first win at Watkins Glen, many people will be wondering if Chase can go back to back to get his first and second career wins back to back. So that'll do it for 3 Wide. Long one, I know, my favorite driver won. Got pretty pumped. Talked a lot about it. Leave your thoughts about Watkins Glen in the comments section below and what you think will happen at Michigan. And as always, thanks for watching.